Thank you, Mark, and good evening, Mark, Kristin, and Ian. Um, I'm in Naples, Florida. I've been a Connecticut voter most of my life. Um, Question on redistricting. I saw one of the Texas state legislators interviewed on TV the other day, asked, why are you doing this? He said, because we can. It's legal and it's to our political advantage. So my question is, it seems to me that states should have independent redistricting. I just asked ChatGTP. 11 states have that. I thought they'd be all blue states. I thought maybe the Democrats are just stupid at this, but they aren't. California has it, Colorado has it, but so does Arkansas and Alaska. So this seems to be evenly split between red and blue states. Is there any non-political reason why there wouldn't be independent redistricting? So I'm just curious what you think, what Christian thinks, and what Ian thinks. Why wouldn't everybody support this? It seems to be for the good of the country. Yes, it's not to people's political advantage, but times change.
Yeah, great question. Ian.
Yeah, I would say there is no non-political reason, right? I think kind of morally and kind of with common sense, it would make sense. The problem is that we're in a political system, and when you're dealing with game theory, right? Are you going to get everybody to unilaterally disarm at the same time? And I think that's where it becomes difficult. What's supposed to happen now is the Supreme Court is supposed to step in, even with states that are not doing independent redistricting, and say, hey, was this fair? Did this make sense? Is this above board, or is this obviously partisan? And when you have officials saying out front on either side whether or not this is an obviously partisan attempt at redistricting, then it's on the Supreme Court to really get out in front of that, and we'll see what happens here.
Kristin.
I agree a little bit, disagree a little bit. I do think the trust in institutions, even one claiming to be independent, is very low. And so I don't think it's 100% political why not every state has this independent commission. I think there are a lot of voters who have serious doubts about unnamed bureaucrats or commissioners solving this. And at the end of the day, they assume that there is political bias, even in someone who is an independent, on an independent commissioner here. So I think there's a lot of distrust in government and in our institutions, and that's part of it. And I mean, there's in some states, I'm sure it's political too. They couldn't actually get it on the ballot to create one. But overall, I wouldn't just say automatically it's political. I think there's a lot of distrust on, who is there to help draw the lines and figure it out.
You could just do it by computer. I mean, you could ask AI to do it.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could.
Well, distrust AI too, though.
Yeah. Doug, I'll say a couple things. First of all, the challenge for taking the politics out of this is it's the most political thing, right? It's about jobs. And even though for politicians, and even though it's not the members of Congress themselves doing it, they and governors and others put enormous pressure on the state legislatures to draw maps that are favorable. Now, here's the dirty little secret about these commissions, these so-called nonpartisan independent commissions. Look at California. What do? They don't try to draw fair maps. Generally, what they do is they're incumbent protection. They basically say, we're going to keep in place the current map and not, if one party has 15 seats and the other has 5, they basically just lock that in. What at least some voters want? What do political scientists say is a good idea? Probably most people in this community would say is, we want competitive seats. Right? We want seats where the politicians have to fight for their job, meaning political balance, right? The opposite of the way the partisans draw the district. The partisans draw the district so that it's easy as possible for the incumbents to keep their job. You might argue, and so people say, well, the district should be compact. They shouldn't look like salamanders. The community should be kept together. They should be close to perfect rectangles as possible. But the reality is a perfect rectangle might in fact make it impossible for one of the two parties to win that seat. So really what you want are districts, what some people want are districts that are as close to balance as possible. So that if you're a Republican incumbent has to fight a good Democrat to keep the seat and vice versa. When the independent commissions come in and do this, they do just the opposite. They keep in place districts that are won by one party. And so go look at the districts drawn, for instance, in California by a so-called independent commission, and look at how many of them are competitive. Some of them are. And sometimes they change over time because demographics change and people move in and out. But I think the answer has to be, if you really want to have a quote unquote fair process in the public interest, I don't think it's as simple, and not just as Kristin said, for public impression, but I don't think it's as simple as saying independent people should draw them. The people who draw them should be trying to make them competitive, not just compact and not just status quo. And that, I haven't studied every state, but the ones I know about, they're not trying to draw them to be competitive. They're trying to draw them to keep the peace, to say, all right, you guys have 10, we have 5, let's keep the status quo.
It seems like a fairness test in California, for example. Let's say 55% of the people in the House vote Democrat and 45% of the entire population vote Republican. Then those seats should split somewhere along 55%.
Correct. 100%. And the president said this morning, I don't know if he was right. Michael, what percentage of the vote did the president get in Massachusetts in 2024? I think he said he got 40%.
Yeah, somewhere around 43, I think. Yeah.
Say again?
I thought it was like 43. It was somewhere
Okay,
around.
so Massachusetts has what, 8 House members? So by that standard, how many should be Republicans? 3 should be Republicans instead of 0. So I agree, Doug, that's what it should be. But go state by state, and you won't find that. There are many states, like in the West, right, where they have only 1 or 2 members, where Democrats have no representation, right? So Maryland has 1 Republican, Massachusetts has 0, and the president cited those this morning. I won't say it's one of the few times the president was correct in citing statistics, but he was right on point. Those 2 states do not yield the Kerry principle, where if you get 40% of the vote, you should get 40% of the members of the House. I'd be interested to see every state and how that matches up, but again, the politicians aren't interested in that. The politicians are in consolidating and keeping their power. And if it's a state controlled by one party, that's what they're going to do. I'll say again, as I said before, singling out Texas as if what they're doing is an outrage and deviating from the norm is just not true. Because you can look at New York, where the Democratic governor of New York, or Illinois, where the Democratic governor of Illinois are on their high horse about how Donald Trump is leading Texas into a mockery of our democracy. Their states have done basically the same thing, and there's just no, the press doesn't cover it that way, so it's a little hard to pick that out, but it's true. Doug, thank you. Grateful to you for the question. Crazy topic as far as I'm concerned, but a topic we must cover. Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip, and you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.